If you ever get a WhatsApp message from a number with no profile picture, don't answer it. I'm not saying that as some kind of internet safety PSA. I'm saying it as someone who made that mistake and has been paying for it ever since. I used to laugh at those little online warnings. You know the ones, creepy chain messages, urban legends about cursed phone numbers, stuff people pass around for a cheap scare. But what I'm about to tell you isn't some recycled ghost story. It's real. It happened to me. And if you've clicked on this, maybe it can happen to you too. I should have blocked the number. That's the part one keep replaying in my head. How simple it would have been. Just one tap, and this entire nightmare would have ended before it even began. But curiosity. Yeah, that's always the killer, isn't it? You see a little gray text bubble pop up at 1:37 a.m., and instead of ignoring it, you lean in. You look closer. That's all it takes. One glance. One decision. The message wasn't anything dramatic. Just 3 words. 3 words that shouldn't have meant anything to me, but still made my chest tighten like I'd been caught doing something wrong. I found you. No hello. No emoji. No context. Just that. I remember staring at the screen in the dark, the green glow reflecting off my face. At first, I thought it was some drunk friend playing a prank, but the longer I looked at those words, the colder my room seemed to get. I tried to laugh it off. I told myself I wouldn't reply, but I kept the chat open, thumb hovering over the keyboard like it was a dare. That's the exact moment when I should have put the phone down and gone back to sleep. But I didn't. I answered, and that's when everything, my quiet, boring, perfectly normal life, began to unravel in ways I couldn't have imagined. It all started so small. Just one text. It had been one of those nights where sleep felt more like a suggestion than a possibility. You know the kind, when your body's exhausted but your mind insists on scrolling through endless nothing just to stay awake. That was me, lying on my bed, one sock on, one sock off, thumb swiping through memes, reels, and half-baked group chats like a zombie on autopilot. My phone was my lifeline to distraction. WhatsApp was buzzing with the usual garbage. An uncle posting blurry family photos, a friend trying to drag me into some late-night voice call, and a group chat argument about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. For the record, it doesn't. Everything about that night was aggressively normal. A little boring, maybe, but in the safe kind of way. The world outside was quiet. The fan in my room hummed its lazy rhythm, and I remember thinking the silence was almost comforting. That's why the ping hit different. At first, I thought it was another group notification. I ignored it, scrolled on. But the little green dot lingered at the top of my screen, and habit won over common sense. I tapped it open. A new chat. No profile picture. No name. Just a number with too many digits to look local. For half a second, I felt that jolt of irritation. Spam, I thought. Some scammer trying to sell me fake loans or pretend to be my long-lost cousin in Canada. I almost laughed. It was too easy to dismiss. But here's the thing. The message wasn't spam. It wasn't an ad, and it wasn't anything I could brush off. It was short, blunt, and weirdly personal. I'll get to that soon, but let me pause here, because if you're listening, I want you to understand something important. It's not like my life was dramatic or chaotic before this. I wasn't running from the law. I didn't owe anyone money, and I didn't have some deep, dark secret waiting to catch up with me. I was just me, a little lonely, a little restless, stuck in that strange gray space where one day blurs into the next. That's what makes it worse. Horror doesn't knock on the doors of people who deserve it. It doesn't stalk only the guilty. Sometimes, it chooses the people least prepared. People who are comfortable. People who think they're safe. That night, I thought I was safe. I thought I was just another insomniac with nothing better to do than scroll through dumb memes until my eyes burned. And then came the message. Not from a friend. Not from a scammer. From them. That was the moment the normalcy cracked. The exact second my boring little world became something I'd give anything to escape. But once you open the door, once you look, you can't unsee what's waiting on the other side. And I had just opened mine. The number sat there at the top of my screen, glowing against the dark mode background like it wanted my attention. I tapped the chat open, half ready to block it before even reading. But curiosity got the better of me. It always does. The first message. I've been waiting for you. No emojis. No punctuation. Just that flat little sentence, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. I snorted, typed back without thinking. Who is this? Wrong number, buddy. The reply came almost instantly. Not wrong. Not a buddy. Clever scammer, I thought. Probably some troll. My friends had pulled dumber pranks on me before, so I leaned into the sarcasm. Cool. Well, congrats. You found me. Gold star. Now tell me what you're selling. Crypto. Fake concert tickets. The typing dots appeared. 3 of them, pulsing in rhythm like a heartbeat. Then a message dropped that made my stomach clench. You still keep your phone on your nightstand. Same side of the bed, near the outlet. I froze. My thumb hovered above the keyboard, suddenly heavy. Coincidence, I told myself. Everyone keeps their phone on their nightstand, right? Maybe I'd mentioned it in some chat, or it was a lucky guess. I forced myself to type. Funny. Who put you up to this? Mark. Jaden. This you, Alex. This time the response took longer. Almost deliberate. They don't know. No one does. Just me and you. A little chill slid down my spine. I tried to laugh it off, though it came out shaky in the quiet of my room. Maybe it was late. Maybe my brain was more fried than I realized. Still, I couldn't stop staring at that text. I typed, slower this time. Seriously, who is this? The answer didn't help. You'll remember soon. The room felt smaller after that, like the walls were inching closer. I kept telling myself to stop replying, to block the number and go to bed. But there's this itch you get when something doesn't make sense. This need to scratch at it until you bleed. So I scratched. You've got the wrong guy. Whatever game this is, it's not working. The response was quick. Favorite food? Pepperoni pizza, extra cheese. Used to pick the cheese off when you were 6. Still hate mushrooms. Want me to keep going? My throat went dry. I didn't remember ever telling anyone that. Not in detail. Certainly not online. I stared at the screen until the typing dots appeared again. Should I tell you about the scar on your knee? Or the way you still double-checked the closet before bed? I dropped the phone onto my blanket like it had burned me. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. This wasn't funny anymore. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Someone close to me. Maybe who knew too much. Someone messing with me. But even as I tried to rationalize, I couldn't shake the feeling that the words were reaching out of the phone, pulling me in. I should have blocked them right then. I should have thrown the phone across the room and never looked back. But I didn't, because buried under the fear was something else. Something worse. Curiosity. And curiosity is what kept me typing back. That was the moment everything started to spiral. I barely slept after that first exchange. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those words glowing against the black screen, taunting me. By morning, I had convinced myself it had to be some elaborate prank. Maybe one of my friends got drunk, dug through my old Facebook posts, and pieced together details, just to screw with me. That theory lasted until the next message came through. I was halfway through brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed. I wiped my hand on a towel, glanced at the screen, and froze. It was a picture. Not just any picture. One of me. Not a selfie. Not something from Instagram. No, this was from inside my phone's gallery. A photo I'd taken months ago of a half-eaten pizza box on my kitchen counter. The same scarred counter I was leaning against right then. I felt the toothbrush slip from my hand, clattering into the sink. My first thought was impossible, there in my phone. But the more terrifying part was they were right. I had never sent that picture to anyone. It wasn't online. It shouldn't have been accessible to anyone but me. Before I could process it, another image dropped. This time my street. My apartment building. Taken from outside, maybe across the road. And judging by the faint reflection in a window, it was recent. Minutes old. I rushed to the blinds, yanking them open, scanning the street. Empty cars lined the curb. A lone street lamp buzzed overhead. Nothing unusual. No person standing there with a camera. But that didn't matter. Someone had been here. Someone close enough to see my front door. My heart was hammering. I typed with shaking fingers. Who the hell are you? The reply came instantly. I'm the one watching. My skin crawled. It felt like the walls themselves were breathing, pressing in around me. I locked the door, then double-checked it, as if that flimsy bolt could stop whatever this was. More images flooded in. Old ones. Forgotten ones. A blurry shot of me at 16, standing in a schoolyard. A photo of my mother holding me as a baby. A birthday cake from when I was 10. These weren't just from my phone, they were from my life. I didn't even remember some of them. Each ping made my chest tighten until I could barely breathe. And then came the worst one. It wasn't an old photo. It wasn't from my gallery. It was me, right there, in that exact moment, standing at the window, curtains half drawn, phone glowing in my hand. The timestamp said it had been taken seconds ago. I dropped the phone. It bounced off the carpet, face down. For a moment I just stared at it, afraid to pick it up again, afraid of what else might appear on that cursed little screen. But I couldn't leave it there. I grabbed it, heart pounding in my ears, and the next message was waiting. Smile. I don't know if I did. I don't remember if my face obeyed out of shock or defiance. All I know is that I stumbled back from the window, shut the curtains tight, and sat in the dark with my phone glowing like a radioactive thing in my hands. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a prank. It wasn't a scam. Whoever, or whatever, was on the other side of that number had access to more than my phone. They had access to me. And no matter how much I wanted to, I couldn't look away. That was the first night I couldn't sleep. But it wouldn't be the last. I thought ignoring them might help. I told myself that if I didn't reply, they'd get bored, vanish back into whatever void they crawled out of. For a few hours, it worked. My phone sat silent on the table, screen dark. I even convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing, some fever dream from too much caffeine and insomnia. Then, at 3:03 a.m., the phone buzzed. The message was simple, like a teacher calling attendance. Your turn. My stomach dropped. I typed before I could stop myself. What do you want from me? The dots appeared, flickering, pausing, as if they were savoring the moment. Then the reply came. A game. I stared at it, waiting for more, praying it was some dumb puzzle app scam. But the next text wasn't an ad, it was a list. The rules. Always reply. Never delete messages. If you stop playing, I'll come visit. I read those words again and again, each one heavier than the last. Something about the phrasing. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. I typed back, hands shaking. This is insane. I'm not playing your game. The reply hit like a slap. You already started. And then the first challenge appeared. Go to your fridge. Top shelf. Third item from the left. I felt a laugh bubble up, but it was the wrong kind of laugh. Sharp, nervous, brittle. Still, I got up. I don't know why. Maybe because part of me wanted to prove them wrong. Prove this was some coincidence. I opened the fridge. There it was. A can of soda. Not just any can, my soda. The last one. Shoved behind a jar of pickles where I'd forgotten it. Another message pinged. Drink it. Now. I hesitated, staring at the can like it was poison. My thumb hovered over the block button, but the thought of that third rule, if you stop playing, I'll come visit, loomed too large. So I cracked it open, took a sip. The next text came before I'd swallowed. Good. You listen. A sick satisfaction oozed from those words, like they were patting me on the head. The dares escalated from there. Harmless at first. Turn on the TV. Leave the bathroom light on. Write your name backwards on your arm. Stupid things. Childish things. But each time I obeyed, I felt something tighten around me. An invisible leash tugging me deeper into their control. At one point, I tried to push back. I typed, "Why should I play? What happens if I don't?" Their reply was instant. Want to see. Seconds later, a new image arrived. My front door. A hand, pale, slender, resting on the doorknob. I dropped the phone and sprinted to the door. Nothing. Empty hallway, dead silent. No footprints, no sign of anyone. But when I checked my phone again, another message was waiting. Running only makes it worse. That's when I stopped arguing. The game continued night after night. Sometimes the dares were absurd. Stand in front of the mirror and whisper your name 5 times. Sometimes they were unsettling. Leave the window open while you sleep. And sometimes they were cruel. One night, they told me to call my mother, to tell her I loved her, and then hang up without explaining. I argued, begged to skip it. Their answer chilled me. Love doesn't last if you don't say it. Do it. So I did. My mother's confused voice still haunts me. I don't know what the point of it all was. Maybe there wasn't one. Maybe the game wasn't about winning. It was about breaking me down, making me dance to strings I couldn't see. What terrified me most wasn't the tasks. It was the hints dropped in between. Little messages that felt too sharp, too knowing. You're not my first. Some play better than others. Most don't last a week. I couldn't help myself. I asked, what happened to the others? Their reply was just 2 words. Ask them. And then came a photo. A dozen names scribbled in messy handwriting on a torn piece of paper. I didn't recognize them, but the implication was clear. I wasn't alone. I wasn't the first. And I wouldn't be the last. So I'm telling you this now. If any of you have ever seen something like this, if a random number's ever sent you rules, or dares, or things you can't explain, leave a comment. Let me know. Because maybe, just maybe, I'm not screaming into the void. Maybe we're all playing the same game. By the 5th night, I'd stopped pretending I was in control. Every buzz of my phone made my stomach twist. Every shadow outside my window looked like a watcher. I wasn't living anymore. I was waiting. Waiting for the next dare, the next command, the next reminder that I wasn't alone, that my life no longer belonged to me. But nothing prepared me for when they stopped playing games and started digging. It began with another late-night message. You've forgotten things. Let me help. I didn't understand what they meant until the images started dropping. At first, they looked like old family photos, the kind you'd find in a shoebox under your parents' bed. There was one of me as a kid, maybe 5 years old, wearing a paper crown from Burger King. Another of me on my first day of school, clutching a backpack too big for my frame. Except these weren't photos I remember taking. My parents never showed me these. And when I tried to think back, tried to recall the day, it was like my mind slid off the memory, leaving only static. Then came the video. I almost didn't press play, but morbid curiosity gnawed at me. The screen flickered, and there I was, 10 years old, sitting in the living room of the house we used to rent. I was playing with my action figures, narrating their battles in a voice too high-pitched to belong to me anymore. But the camera wasn't held by my mom or dad. The angle was wrong, too low, too close. Whoever was filming lingered on me, breathing heavily, as if savoring the moment. Then a whisper came, faint but unmistakable. Don't forget me. My blood turned to ice. I shut the video off, heart racing, while rising in my throat. I didn't remember that day. I didn't remember anyone filming me. And yet there it was, proof of a moment buried so deep. Maybe my brain had locked it away for a reason. I tried to call my mom the next morning, voice trembling as I asked if she remembered anything strange back then. She laughed it off, told me I was always imaginative, that I probably dreamed it. But her voice cracked just enough to tell me she wasn't being honest. The messages didn't stop. They grew sharper, more personal. You cried on your 7th birthday. Wanna know why? Your uncle told you not to tell. Do you remember what he did? You buried it. I didn't. I stared at those words, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone. My uncle. I hadn't thought about him in years, not since he disappeared from our family's lives, with no explanation. A pit opened in my stomach as flashes of memory surfaced, his hand on my shoulder, his voice telling me to keep a secret. The way I used to dread family gatherings without knowing why. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. I wanted to scream, to deny it, to erase the possibility that any of it was real. But the texts kept coming, each one like a blade peeling away layers of denial. The scar on your knee isn't from falling off your bike. That night in the basement, you locked the door yourself. You don't remember the face, but you remember the feeling, don't you? I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. They weren't just pulling for my phone anymore. They were pulling for me, from the darkest corners of my memory, dragging up things I had buried so deep they felt alien. I didn't want to believe them. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction. But the thing about memory is that once it stirs, you can't shove it back down. Every word they sent twisted the knife, unraveling the thin threads of my reality. I sat there, staring at the chat, trembling as I typed my first real question. Why me? Why are you doing this? For a long time, no reply came. Just those 3 dots, appearing and vanishing, like they were savoring my desperation. Then finally, because you chose to answer. I dropped the phone, my pulse hammering in my ears. That was when I realized the truth. This wasn't random. This wasn't bad luck. They hadn't stumbled onto me. I had opened the door myself. By replying to that first message, I'd given them permission. And now they weren't just watching me. They were inside me. Inside my past. Inside my secrets. Inside the parts of myself I'd spent a lifetime trying to forget. And they weren't finished yet. By the 7th day, I started realizing something terrifying. The phone wasn't the prison, it was the leash. And the leash reached into the real world. It began small. Glimpses. Shadows. Things I could almost convince myself were tricks of exhaustion. Like the figure I spotted across the street while taking the trash out. Too still. Too focused. Like a mannequin set in the wrong place. When I blinked, it was gone. I told myself I was paranoid. Sleep-deprived. Imagining things. But then the photos started again. This time, they weren't of my fridge or my childhood. They were recent. Live. The first was me on the bus, earbuds in, scrolling through my phone. I hadn't felt anyone near me. The timestamp was from 10 minutes earlier. The next was at a cafe. A place I'd gone to escape the suffocating silence of my apartment. I sat by the window, sipping burnt coffee, trying to convince myself life was still normal. The photo showed me mid-sip. Behind me, blurred but unmistakable, was a figure standing too close, face obscured by the window glare. I left without finishing the coffee. That night, my phone buzzed again. A single line of text. Check your door. My skin went cold. I tiptoed to the peephole, heart slamming against my ribs. At first, nothing. Just the dim hallway, the buzzing overhead light. Then knock. Soft. Slow. Deliberate. I stumbled back, phone buzzing again in my hand. Another photo. This one from the outside. A pale hand resting on my doorknob. Fingers curled as if testing the lock. I didn't open it. Couldn't. I sat in the dark, clutching my phone like a lifeline, waiting for the knocks to stop. They never grew louder, never desperate. Just steady, patient taps, like they had all the time in the world. Eventually, silence. But when I checked my phone, a final message waited. Running only makes it worse. That was when I broke. I deleted WhatsApp. I factory reset my phone. I even smashed the SIM card with a hammer, convinced that cutting the cord would save me. For the first time in a week, I felt relief. False, fragile relief. It lasted less than an hour. My new phone, brand new, fresh out of the box, with a new SIM, new number lit up. One notification. Same unknown number. Nice try. That's when the walls of reality collapsed. There was no escape. No block button. No reset. No distance that could sever the connection. The messages poured in like static, endless and relentless. Photos of me walking down the grocery aisle. Of me fumbling with keys at my door. Of me staring into my laptop screen at 2 a.m., pale and hollow-eyed. Always from angles I couldn't trace. Distances I couldn't calculate. And worse, videos. The first was only 5 seconds long. My bedroom. Filmed from the corner, as if a camera were hidden in the wall. I was asleep, tangled in sheets, oblivious. The second was longer. Me, in the shower, humming softly, completely exposed. I dropped the phone on the tiles, while rising in my throat, fighting the urge to vomit. Someone had been there. Someone was there. But when I tore through the apartment, checking vents, closets, every corner, I found nothing. Just silence and dust and the faint buzzing of the fridge. That night, I slept with every light on. It didn't matter. At 4:12 a.m., my phone vibrated against the nightstand. One new photo. Me, lying in bed, eyes wide open in the light, phone clenched in my hand, taken from inches away. I screamed, threw the phone across the room. But even without touching it, I could hear the ping of another incoming message. I'm closer than you think. By then, I stopped pretending this was just digital. This wasn't some hacker playing God from a distance. They were here. In my city. In my apartment. In my life. The phone had become an open wound, bleeding my privacy, my safety, my sanity. Every time I tried to close it, they tore it open again, wider, deeper, laughing silently through every ping and photo. And the worst part? They were right. Running only made it worse. By this point, my world was collapsing. Sleep was impossible, food tasted like ash, and every corner of my apartment felt like a stage set under surveillance. I thought I was alone in this nightmare, until the night I learned I wasn't. It started with a new message, not from them, but from an unknown number that didn't match the one tormenting me. For a moment, I almost ignored it, terrified it was another trick. But the message was short, desperate. Are they texting you too? My breath caught. My fingers trembled as I typed back. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Please, don't ignore me. I don't know who else to ask. Against every instinct screaming to delete it, I responded. The stranger's name was Emily. She claimed she'd been getting the same kind of messages. Photos of her in places she didn't realize she was being watched. Recordings of her sleep. Secrets she swore she'd never told anyone. At first, I thought it was bait, another manipulation. But when she described the exact same progression, the fridge photo, the check your door knock, the threats, I knew she wasn't lying. It was like hearing my own nightmare spoken back to me. She sent proof. Screenshots of her messages, each more chilling than the last. One of them said, "He thinks the basement was safe." It wasn't. I froze. That word again. Basement. I hadn't told anyone about what they'd sent me, about the half-formed memories they dragged up, and yet here it was, haunting someone else. Emily told me there were others. She'd found them in hidden forums, people whispering about a game they couldn't escape. Each story started the same, an innocent message from an unknown number, an answered reply, and then the spiral. Some managed to cut contact by throwing their phones away and disappearing completely. Others weren't so lucky. They don't stop, Emily warned me. Not until you break. Or worse. I asked what worse meant. She didn't answer right away. Then a single image came through, a missing person poster. A boy, 17, last seen leaving his house 2 months ago. I wanted to believe it was unrelated, just fear connecting dots that didn't exist. But then she sent another, and another. Faces of people who had vanished, their last online activity all pointing to the same pattern. Messages from nowhere, games that grew darker, then silence. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just me. It had never been just me. We weren't victims of some random glitch or hacker. We were part of something larger, a chain of victims stretched out like bones in the dirt. I asked Emily how she'd managed to last this long. She said she played along, did what they asked, gave them just enough to keep them satisfied. But it's never enough, she admitted. They always push further. And when you stop playing, her final message came hours later, in the middle of the night. They're here. I called her number immediately, desperate to hear a human voice, but no one picked up. It rang and rang until it cut to silence. The next day, her number was disconnected. That's when I understood the truth in my bones. This wasn't random cruelty. It wasn't about me, or Emily, or any one person. It was a system, a pattern, a ritual carried out through wires and screens, feeding on the people foolish enough to answer the first text. And now I was caught in it. Not a victim, not a target, a participant. By the 9th night, I wasn't just afraid, I was hollow. Every message chipped away at me. Every photo tightened the noose. I knew they wanted me broken, and I could feel myself splintering. That night, the phone buzzed again. I almost didn't look, but something about the silence that followed made me pick it up. One line. Final round. Play, or she disappears too. Attached was a photo of Emily. My chest clenched. She was alive, sitting in a car, wide-eyed, her reflection caught in the window. The timestamp was less than an hour old. I typed back furiously. What do you want from me? The answer came instantly. Obedience. Then the game began. First task, go outside. I tried to resist, but then came another photo. My apartment door, taken from a hallway, a hand poised to knock. I went. Second task, walk 3 blocks north. It was past midnight, streets dead quiet, but I obeyed, shivering in the cold. Each step echoed like a countdown. Third task, pick up the package. I found it waiting at a bus stop bench. A plain cardboard box, no label. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a burner phone, its screen already lit, waiting. A new number appeared on it. Good. Now choose, her or you. 2 addresses popped up, one labeled Emily, the other home. My blood turned to ice. They wanted me to decide who would survive. I typed back, "This isn't real. You're bluffing." A reply came. A video. Emily again, this time in a dark room, duct tape over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. A voice whispered behind the camera, "Pick." I stood frozen on that empty street, the world around me too silent, too expectant. It felt like every shadow was leaning in, waiting for my answer. Finally, I broke. I screamed at the phone, begging them to stop, offering myself instead. But the reply was cold, final. No escape. Choose. And in that moment, I realized the truth. There was never a choice. The game was never about winning. It was about breaking me, forcing me to stare into the illusion of control until I realized I had none. I dropped the phone onto the pavement, shattering it against the concrete. The screen cracked, but the voice still whispered through the speaker, faint and distorted. Game over. The line went dead. I was alone again, but the silence felt heavier than any noise. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Games don't stop when you quit. They stop when you lose. And I wasn't sure which I had just done. For 2 days, nothing happened. No photos, no messages, no whispers from the glowing screen. Just silence, an unbearable, suffocating silence. I tried to believe it was over. I told myself the broken phone had severed the cord, that maybe they'd grown bored, moved on to another poor soul who'd made the mistake of answering. I even convinced myself Emily was safe somewhere, that the video had been staged. But deep down, I knew better. Because silence isn't safety. Silence is the inhale before the scream. On the 3rd night, I woke to the buzz. Not my phone. It was gone, smashed, forgotten. No, this was the new one. The one I bought just to feel normal again. The screen lit up in the darkness. One notification. Unknown number. My stomach turned to ice. I almost didn't touch it. Almost left it to rot in the shadows. But curiosity, that old, poisonous thing, made me swipe it open. One message. "Did you miss me?" I wanted to throw the phone across the room, smash it into pieces like the last one. But before I could, another message appeared. This time, it wasn't for me. It was a screenshot. A WhatsApp chat window. The name at the top was someone else's. Someone I didn't know. A stranger. The message history was identical to mine. The same hooks. The same photos. The same spiral of fear. Only this time, I was the one in the screenshots. A photo of me sitting in my apartment. Another of me outside, clutching the burner phone. A final one of me asleep in bed, face pale in the glow of the street lamp outside. The stranger's last reply was there too, in small, desperate gray bubbles. "Who is this?" And below, the first message sent to me so long ago. "Do you remember the basement?" My blood ran cold. It wasn't ending. It was repeating. My role had shifted. I wasn't just prey anymore. I was evidence. Bait. A piece of someone else's nightmare, recycled and repurposed to drag them into the same cycle. That's when I understood the truth. This was never about me. It was never about Emily, or the missing boy, or any of the countless others. We weren't chosen. We weren't special. We were chapters, pages in a book that never closed. Stories retold to new victims until they couldn't tell the difference between their life and the script. The last message came as I stared at the screen, too numb to breathe. "Your turn." And just like that, I realized the real horror. It never ends. Not for me. Not for Emily. Not for the stranger who just answered. And maybe not for you either.